Hey, what's going on, everyone? Dan the Glassman here. I'm just getting started, getting ready here. Got to clear off the table. We got all these balloons that we just made. A lot of different balloons here. These ones are the green and yellow ones. We got 3 of each of these green and yellow ones. We got 3 each of this cobalt blue and peacock blue. And then we've got 3 of the orange and yellow. These are pretty nice and vibrant. So we've got 9 balloons ready to go. And we got a whole bunch of these 2-colored mushrooms here. They're all the same, but they're all one of a kind, all unique. So they all got different amounts of the blue on the edges of the mushroom caps there. So we've got, like, I don't know how many of these. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of these. These are $10 a piece. The the balloons are 20. So we got 8 of these ready to go, and those are 10 each. I also do wholesale if anyone is interested in reselling my glass in their cities and their state, at your local store. If you're a vendor, if you do markets and things like that, craft shows, that kind of stuff. Also for other jewelers, you can always use my my pendants here as your centerpieces, and that way you can put them in the center of a necklace, and then you just beat it up, put whatever sort of beads and things. These are just on cord, so real quick and simple. But we're going to get started here and make some glass. Let me just make sure that the dust has all been wiped off. I forgot to cover up the fan. I have a simple little cover that I use. All it is a piece of cardboard with a magnet that holds it together. And it just holds the cardboard on. Alright, so that's all clear of the dust. Make sure all the tools are clear. Alright. So it should be all good to go, ready to go. Alright. Now, what are we going to make? Should we start on some mushrooms right away? We can make more mushrooms. I don't think I can ever make enough of those mushrooms. We could do a real quick demonstration on how's the beginning of glass blowing, So when you first get started glass blowing, you have to learn how to gather your glass. So you want to be able to turn this into a nice round rod. So you learn how to put that little tip of glass, that point of glass, in the flame. You see how it goes orange like that as soon as I touch it into the flame? So you know that it's in there right in the center. You keep it there, let it get all warm, and you start to add a little bit more of that rod into it, and then a little bit more and a little bit more. And eventually you get like a ½ inch of that rod, just a little small portion of it, nice and warm, and you'll see it start to glow. It'll get that glowing feature on there. And then you add a little bit more in there, and then you basically will round out the tip, and that's how you gather your rod, learning how to gather glass and learning how to round it out. And that's like one of the very first things. And also learning how to control your torch, using the oxygen and the propane. There's a thing called poop, POOP, propane, oxygen, oxygen, propane. So when you turn on your torch, you turn on the propane first, then you light it, then you adjust your oxygen to the flame, and when you turn it off, you shut off your oxygen, and then you shut off your propane. So it's always propane, then oxygen, oxygen, then propane. Ooh. So once you get that all rounded, that's ready to go. Now, since I decided I'm going to show you beginner basics real quick, this is how you round and gather a rod. Real simple. That's the first step in learning how to do anything. Then you can learn how to like turn this into a marble, make this into like a water drop pendant, turning it into something. So the next step would be how to pull a stringer. And since I already have the stringer made with this one, I'll show you how to pull a stringer with a different color here. Let's see. Let's go with let's see if I can find. Yeah, let's go with this one here. It's a dark multi. I like these colors here. So as you can see, it's all elongated. We're gonna gather this down. So basically, we're gonna melt this down, bring it back down to the rod, but then we're gonna even gather a little bit more and get about a 1/2 inch of this little rod. This is a lot skinnier than the 16 millimeter rod that we were using, the clear glass. This is now about, I would guess about a 7 millimeter. So we're gonna gather that down. You see now it's not all pulled thin. And then we're gonna heat up like a good 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch of this rod. And we're gonna let it kind of marble up. And we're gonna grab our tweezers here. These basically are pullers to pull the glass. I'm just gonna gather this up. It's gonna get a little bit bigger than the rest of the rod. You can see it's getting a little bit wider, a little bit thicker, a little bigger than the rest of the rod. We're gonna get about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of that, heat it up. Then we're gonna grab it right at the very end, as much of the end as possible. That way we don't waste too much of this. And you gotta do this all pretty precise, so I'm gonna use gravity here also. I'm gonna grab it, I'm gonna start to pull it, and slowly use gravity and pull the glass and the tweezers away very slowly and controlled. If I pulled it really quickly, it would thin out the glass. If I don't pull it quick enough, it would stay thick and solid like that. So you want to make sure, also at the end, what I didn't do was make sure that that was nice and straight. There we go. So I grabbed it by my tweezers, and then I just, as I'm twisting it, now I make sure it's nice and straight, so when I'm spinning it, that's completely on axis right there. And now you can see there's a chunk at the end. You see that chunk right there? So we can either pull it off, or you can try to heat up the little bit of the chunk there and then pull it and get it to that same thickness, and then you don't have to waste any of your color. So see, then I pull it, and it's not really as straight as the rest of it. We can straighten that out. There we go. So now it's all ready to go. So that's now a stringer. So that would be like the second step. You learn how to gather your glass, then you have your stringer, and then you take your stringer and you heat up the tip of your rod here, and you only heat up just a portion of it, just about this much, about a 1/2 inch or so, 3/4 inch. Adjust the flame just a little bit, adding a tiny bit more oxygen to make that flame a little bit tighter, a little bit more hotter and precise. And we're going to heat this up, and only the tip, as you can see, it's just that little tip right there. We're going to heat that up. We're going to put this tip in the flame just a little bit, just like that. Get that just a little bit hot right on the tip. That'll help for the glass to spread out. We're going to stab this into the molten glass here that we're heating up in my hand right here. We're going to stab this one into it. And I'll try to do this and show you how it's done. Alright, so we go in dead center, right there. Push it in. And once it hits the wall, it's got nowhere else to go, and you'll see it basically make that mushroom cap all on its own. So it has nowhere to go, and you just keep pushing it. Then you got to cut it off right at the end where the clear glass is, right there, boom. And then you got a little bit of air from pushing that in there. There's a little bit of air. We got to then get that air out. So we got to heat it up right above the mushroom cap. So I'm going directly above, right up here, heating it up. It's going to allow all the glass that's over that mushroom, where the mushroom has been pushed in, it's going to allow that glass to kind of just like melt and sink in. And it's going to just like do this, and it's going to force that air out. But there's a little bit of color that's sticking out from the stem or that stringer that we stabbed in there. So that clear glass is going to wrap itself around that clear. So it's going to be like this, and then that clear glass is just going to like go like that and sandwich down onto that clear glass or onto the color glass, and it'll leave a mushroom stem in there underneath the cap. And if you do it just right, you won't trap any air. I'm holding this at a little bit of like a 45-degree angle, so it's letting the gravity push the glass down onto itself and squeeze itself. And then just patiently waiting for that glass to get molten enough for it to start dropping around the stem, the mushroom stem, or the other color, the stringer there. And once it starts falling down, then I can slowly pull it out like a 0.5 millimeter at a time and allow for that clear glass to fall all the way down to the end. Now I'm at the end, and the air has basically been pinched out, and now we're rounding the end so there's no dimple, there's no like indentation or anything, and you won't be able to tell how I ever put that in there or that I even stabbed it in there, because it'll be perfectly round. So then you just gather it again, so you're making sure you don't trap that air in there, and you just gather it once again. So you just make it round, but you make sure you pinch out that air around the mushroom stem that you'll see right here in just a moment. Once it pulls down, there it is. So now you can see that mushroom stem in there. So we basically pinch that clear glass on top of that mushroom stem, and we didn't trap any air inside of there at all. And there you have a little mushroom. So as soon as you stab it in, it hits this part right here that's all molten. It goes through the molten. It hits the part that's more solid, has nowhere to go, and so that color just kind of implodes on itself. It just goes like boom and just opens up like a mushroom cap. And that's how the mushrooms are made. Now we have to take it off of this, so we're going to use the flame and do a flame cut. We're going to cut it right here, but we need something to hold it, and we can't use our hands because that will melt our fingers, right? It'd be so hot. It'd be excruciating pain. So you get this molten, and you basically do like a tack weld, where you just stick it here where it'll eventually just break off. And you make sure that that's nice and straight. So you watch how you're holding it, keeping that nice and straight right there. You don't want this all bent or anything weird. And then eventually, once that's set up, you should be able to just let go of it. It is fragile. That can just fall off. So I got to be real careful with it. Then we go right above the mushroom. The whole entire mushroom and the cap. You don't want to put any heat over the color there. And we're going to go on the rod, just right above where it's all rounded. And we're going to get this molten, and eventually it's going to be so molten that you can start to move it around. You see, oh, I broke the punny off. I moved it too much. Yeah, let me put the punny back on. Mistakes always happen during the demos, so I'm showing you things I normally wouldn't be doing. But this gets it all molten right here, so we're basically keeping the flame all in one place. You see that? All in one place, right above the mushroom cap. So it's like maybe, I don't know, half an inch away from the top of the mushroom cap. You see that? And that's where it's all flexible now. You see it's all flimsy. So I'll hold that heat right there, and then I'll pull it like a stringer, and we want to get like a, 3-4 millimeter stringer pulled. You don't want to pull it too much. And then you pull it like that, and you pull it over this way, and you bend it over. And as you're doing that, this is going to get solid, and you need to force it back down in. So then you need the flame here to then force that in to itself like that, attach it to the body, and you cut that off. You do another flame cut, slowly pull, let it cut. You're left with that little dimple, that's all left there. Then you get your reamer. So this is the other tool you need, is your tweezers and your reamer. We're going to melt this part, stick it to the body. So we're going to get that little rounded part there molten, and then we're going to push it onto the body to flatten it like that. Then we're going to go on the inside of the loop right there and just kind of round it out like that. And now we're going to heat the whole surface of that all at once. And some of the thin spots I'm going to control the heat a little bit more than others. When you get more experience at doing this, you'll be able to do it all in one try. But I'll tell you, when I first made my very first mushroom, it took me at least 45 minutes to an hour to make one. So that's pretty much done. I'm going to thicken up this little area just right here where it attaches, just to make it look a little bit more uniform in shape. Open up the hole a little bit now because it closed up. You got to make sure you don't let that hole close up on you. So that's why I use the reamer. Also, you make sure you go in on each side, because if you're always pushing the hole, or pushing the reamer through on one side on the hole, it's gonna make the whole entire loop lopsided and forced to one side more than the other. The other thing too, so I'm always going in on one side, then I hit it, spin it, going on the other, but I'm also pulling up. So I'm pulling tension, so it's like the way you would make tension on a rope, you're pulling it upward, you're making it real taut, and then that allows for a nice straight loop, nice and round. You see how it's all attached right here? So you can see that's where we attached it, brought it around like that, and attached it. So we made sure it's nice and attached. It's not if you get the Chinese glass, that store-bought glass that isn't hand-blown local glass, they make some really cool pendants, but they basically, when they bring the loop around, they don't attach it to the body. They don't melt it down. It's not like it's soldered or welded together right there. They just bring the glass around, and then you have a really not very strong, a very fragile loop. And if the loop breaks, then you don't have a pendant anymore. You can't wear it anymore. So it's really important to make a super strong glass loop if you're using glass loop. Because if it breaks, then it's not worth anything. Then it's really sharp. No one's going to want to keep it. I mean, some people keep their broken glass all the time because they're like keepsakes and memorials and whatever. But there you have it, nice and rounded. what I did at the end was after I snapped it off, I forgot to show you that. So I snapped it off. Then there's a little bit of like sharp glass on the bottom. We call it punchy marks from where the punchy was attached, right? So you snap that off. Then you just put this in the flame. So I go directly under. You'll see it gets warm. See it gets orange. Then I go on top of the flame and I get it orange right there, and you go on the bottom. And basically that's going to make sure that if I'm just holding it like this, that glass is going to fall slowly this way. With the gravity, it's going to just fall this way. So I want to then even it out by holding it opposite way to allow that gravity to then bring the glass back the other way. So then it's always going to center itself out and become nice and rounded on the bottom there. So that's how you perfect the mushrooms, how you make them unified, you know, like pretty much identical every time. And then the color that we use is a dark multi. This color here, it's a dark multi, so it's got a lot of different like elements and metals and minerals in there. And when you put it in the glass, you can see it looks nothing like that color at all. So you get these like cool greens and blues and like these like yellowish golds and stuff like that in there. It's just a really cool color. The dark multis make it look like you use multiple colors. Now, to make an actual multiple color mushroom, like these ones here, so that one I would still consider a $5 mushroom, even though it's got the dual colors and stuff. These ones are my $10 mushrooms. And the reason being is after I pull the stringer, then I add a little bit of color to the tip of this, so it's one extra step. And this one little extra step makes my $5 mushroom pendant now able to be sold at $10. So I just add a little bit of blue, cobalt blue. This is a shade 4 cobalt. There's many different cobalts out there, so that's a number 4 cobalt. And when I add that, I want to make sure I attach it just right and keep that tip nice and straight. So it's a little bit of added work, but it doesn't take too long. So then you have that little bit of color right there, right? So a little added color. Then we're going to stab that, and that changes everything. So the dark multi, the multiple color, yeah, that does work really well. But it's not the same as these ones here. And I can add different colors to different ones, you know, add a little yellow with a green dot. You know, adding a darker color for the dot with a contrasting color on the bottom is usually best. I like to use the caramel or the butterscotch color because those look like actual psilocybin mushrooms. And then, you know, they get sometimes a little bit of that bluish color, the bruising, or just the medicine that's being seen within. And so you add that little bit of cobalt to it, and it really just changes everything. So now we just do a gather, right? And we've already pulled the stringer. We have the blue dot to it. So now we just get this ready to go, and we stab it in. So I'm going to get this molten. We're going to get the little bit of the cobalt blue, the tip of that hot, like molten, so it's glowing there. And then we're going to stab it in, go directly center. I'm spinning this glass, both of them at the same time, trying to keep them both centered, and stabbing this directly in the middle or in the center of that color, the clear rod. Because sometimes when you stab it in, you'll notice that the color rod will push the clear glass up this way or up that way. So trying to keep it centered is very important. As soon as you stab it, you flame cut it off, that mushroom's in there, the stem is there, the air bubble's in there, there's a dimple there, we got to get rid of that now. So if you do this all in one step, you don't let it cool down, you should be able to do this fairly quickly, to where then it's just, you know, one after the other after the other. You're making these within 5 minutes or less. And like I said, when I first started learning how to make the mushrooms, it took me a good 45 minutes to an hour. And when I first teach people, it takes them a while. Like, I can get you to make one within a good 15 to 30 minutes with my hands-on approach, helping you with, you know, I'll be like, okay, lift your hand up like this. You know, I'll give you that kind of direction. And then you'll start bringing your hand out like, nope, lift your hand up again like that. Okay. So, you know, I'll do a hands-on approach, and I can teach you how to actually do it on like that, kind of on your own, within like 15 to 30 minutes. But then once I step away and I have you controlling the torch, controlling your own spins and where it's supposed to be and everything, then you go back from like, oh, I made that first one in like 15 or 30 minutes to, oh, it took me like an hour to make that one by myself. And it really is a learning curve like that. And, you know, in the beginning, before I even teach you how to blow glass, I tell people to get something like a pencil or something like that, so you can then grab it and you start spinning the glass, and you learn how to spin, so you can see how the glass spins right there. And you just keep that constant spin going, right? Just constantly spinning, constantly spinning. And if you do that and you practice that, then you're teaching your body the muscle memory. So then when you get on the torch, you're not just coming up here and starting to spin and then you burn your forearm out trying to spin it, and then your hand's just done. You can't go any further. Once you reach that burnout with your muscles, then you're done. There's no more, well, let's try to do this. No, at that point, your hands are done. You're like, oh, I can't blow glass anymore today. Let's try again next week or in a couple of days or whatever. So it really is a lot of a body, you know, I'm holding my shoulders up constantly like this. Try to do that just in any sitting without any weight, you know. Try to do that. Just sit here all day holding your shoulders up, and let's see how long you can keep your arms up. It really takes a lot of muscle and a lot of strength to just hold these little tiny simple things all day like this, you know, where I'm not like, and letting my arms go. Like, no, you got to have your deltoids working there. You need your shoulder muscles working. What are those? Your traps and your deltoids. Because you got to keep your glass nice and steady, so if you're ever pulling things and stuff like that, you're keeping everything nice and straight. Alright, we're going to do the loop here, and we're going to do this all in one motion, nice and quick and simple. And as I'm spinning this, I'm looking at the mushroom like, okay, where do I want it to face? And where I want it to face, I pull it towards me. I can see that's where I want it, so then I pull that loop at me, and that gives me the front. So now I can see that's the back right there, right? But this is the front. So that's how you're going to see it as someone wears it. So I'm always looking when I'm spinning it like this. I'm always looking to see like, what's the best spot? And bam, I stopped it right there. So those are also little things that eventually, after blowing glass, you know, you start looking at those things. And when I'm making the glass, I make it look so easy because I've been doing this for 28 years. But, you know, rounding down this really misshapen loop will take someone a long time compared to, you know, I know exactly where I need to heat it. It's going to bend a little weird right there, so I'm going to then bring my tool in there to round it out better. We're going to thicken up that part that's a little thinner on the back side there. You're going to pull it, shape it back around, get some of this from the front, stretch that out some. So it's like all these little things that I'm doing all at once. I'm not just like melting it anywhere and everywhere. I'm being extremely precise on where I'm heating it, so then I can shape it back into a nice round loop. Nice strong loop. See, it's very strong, all connected. When you look at it, that's how you're going to look at it, straight on like that. And then that has the two colors you can see with the blue and then that caramel or the butterscotch there. And then, so I heat up my tool right there. I don't want to shock the glass. Then I put that in there. Usually the hole is big enough for me to fit my tweezer in there. Which that gives me, if my tweezer doesn't fit, then the hole is too small. Then I bring it directly underneath. I hit where the puntee was, so there's a puntee mark there. I hit it on the top area, so then I just spin it around. Go back underneath. So I'm just flipping it from the top of the flame to the bottom and the bottom edge of the flame. I'm not putting it into the center of the flame. I'm using the very edge of the flame, so I'm not trying to reheat the whole thing. Just want that bottom, and then it's done. And then you look at it head on, just like that. And that's a finished pendant right there. So that's how I do the mushrooms. There's a really quick, simple crash course lesson on how you can make mushrooms if you're starting to blow glass at home and you're trying to learn how to do this blowing glass on your own. It's really hard if you don't have a teacher. But now, you know, with the digital age that we're in and people watching videos all day and watching others blowing glass, a lot of people are actually attempting to do this on their own. Now, I highly recommend you do find a teacher, because you want to be careful in learning different things, like using flashback arresters on your propane tank to make sure that your flame doesn't shoot back and explode your propane tank. If for some reason you accidentally are wobbly, you know, like you're not very steady and you're like trying to melt your glass and you're like wobbling around and stuff, right? And you accidentally touch your molten glass to the tip and you seal off the flame and the flame shoots back into your torch through the hose and to your propane tank, you better have a flashback arrestor on there. You know, you need to know all these safety precautions, so it's better to have a teacher, have someone who will teach you all the safety first, wearing the proper glasses, knowing like what glass to use, knowing what pressure your tanks are supposed to be at, what regulators you're supposed to use, what hoses you're supposed to use. You know, all these little things, having a ventilation system set up, making sure you're not breathing in all these fumes all day. You know, there's a lot of stuff that goes into blowing glass besides just putting a torch on a table, turning it on, and start melting some things, you know? You got to know that there are metals and a lot of minerals and elements that are in these things, and when you're heating it, you're releasing all those gases, all the noxious and toxic gases from all this stuff. It happens. There's no getting around it. That's just the way it is. Alright, so now I'm going to show you a solid color. Let's see if I can get this color up. So this here is just straight up, it's like a purple. I forget exactly what color it is specifically, but it's one solid color. So that way I can show you what a multiple colored mushroom looks like the dark multi, and then adding the two colors together, and then what a simple mushroom is. So these solid color mushrooms, and even the dark multi ones, I keep at $5. So if anyone wants to purchase these ones or this one here specifically, you can have this one, and that goes, you know, to the first person that requested and sends payment. You can have any of these. If you say in the comments below, hey, I want that first one you made, or hey, I want that second one with the 2 colors, or hey, I want that one solid color purple one, just let me know. That one's 10. The first one and this third one are 5. I don't have to add any extra things. Now, I could charge $10 for the dark multi, being that it is a multiple colored mushroom, and just stab them all day, one stab at a time, one color at a time. But I feel like then I'd be ripping my people off, and I don't want to do that. So I want to offer some beautiful multiple color mushrooms too, for the same price as the $5 ones as well. And I think for the career, for the history of my whole glass one career until I'm done, I should be able to keep these mushrooms at $5. From the day that I started, I've been selling them for $5, and 28 years later, I'm still selling these for $5 for the simple ones. And these ones they're a lot more nicer than I used to make them. These are a lot bigger than the ones I used to make for $5. And they take me maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute more to make them. Like, oh, big whoop, right? There's still only a few minutes. As you can see, that's done. I go ready for the punchy. So I'm spinning this still, constantly spinning, as I'm getting the punchy ready. So now, like, I can blindly just spin this wherever I'm holding it, you know, anywhere. I just got to constantly spin it. But I got to keep my focus now on the punchy here, and eventually bring this back in so I can line it up directly in the center, tap it real gentle, spin it to make sure it's on there, and then I go directly in real quick. Get that heat over that mushroom cap on the rod where we're going to do the flame cut. And as we flame cut it, we're going to pull it to a good, like, I don't know, 3 millimeter, 4 millimeter rod, about a good inch long or so, inch and a half long, and we loop it all around. Now, usually when I do a beginner lesson on this, I teach it a whole different way. This is a very advanced pull technique. Pull it towards me, then pull it back down and around, and then push it into itself using the flame. And making sure it's attached to the body so it's not a Chinese seal. You don't want any of that crappy Chinese glass seals. And I'm sorry, China, but you guys make stuff very quick. Although there are some amazing individual Chinese glass artists that, or, you know, glass artists who happen to be, you know, from China. And they are amazing at what they do. So not all stuff made in China is crap. But there's still some handmade stuff. But you don't find that stuff at Walmart. Alright, so there you go. So that's now a solid color, all one color. And you clean up the punchy mark always, even though it doesn't look like there's anything there. Believe me, trust me, there's a little piece of sharp glass right there that you will be able to feel. And it might not even be big enough to cut you, but it might scrape your, you know, might scrape you up a little bit or something like that. Alright, and there you go, there's a solid purple, although it's glowing glowing really hot, white hot right there. We'll let it cool down. And in a moment, I'll show you the 3 different mushrooms there. While we're waiting for those to cool down, let's get started on making more hot air balloons. Alright, so we got all those colors there. Now I can see, like, alright, what colors do I want to mix now? We got the red and the yellow. We don't have any red and orange, or yellow and orange. We don't have any colors mixed with white. White's a beautiful color I love to mix with in balloons. Maybe we'll do some white color themed balloons today. Just get the white here. I believe that's a Snow White, if I'm not mistaken. And then any color. So pretty much you just get the white. So we're going to get this gathered here. We're basically just doing the same thing. It's always starting with gathering, right? So we're going to gather this rod here. We're going to get it all ready to go. And it doesn't have to be perfect here. So that's good enough for me. I don't need to make it perfectly round. And I'm going to flash this white in there, try to get it all warmed up so it starts to just glow faintly. And then I can get back to the tip of the white, get it molten, and draw it directly on. Basically, I touch it to the glass and draw it on to the surface just like that. So then after you learn about how to stab the colors in, then you go to the point where you're learning how to use the colors to draw them on in different ways, either with stringers or right now I'm using just a solid rod. You know, so we're working with a 7mm. This is super thick. So to work this kind of glass, you really need some experience first. But learning how to use your glass in this way is really important. All right, so now, and that's probably a little bit more color than I need on both sides. But that's okay. So now we got 2 colors. We got the white and we got the blue. The blue's glowing red hot right now. So then we're going to spin this. We're going to use another puntee here. It's different than the one we use. This one's a lot shorter compared to this one here. You can see the difference. So this one here is just a scrap piece of glass. And I'm going to use it to hold onto the tip of this glass here as I'm getting it molten. I'm going to hold the end of it as I'm spinning it. So this hand right here is spinning the glass, getting it molten, right? Getting all the colors and all the clear glass molten there. And in just a moment, we're going to attach this here. We're going to hold this in place as we're spinning the other hand. And it will create a spiral or a swirl, however you want to look at it. We're just going to twist up the color. So this is also known as making a twisted cane. So once you learn how to make a twisted cane, then you can start doing things like this. Or instead of pulling it and actually making it into a stringer with twisted color, so that's what a twisted cane would be. I'm actually pushing it into itself and kind of gathering it in as I'm twisting it all. And I'm gradually moving from the top, the very tip of it, and now working where the bottom of the colors are. And eventually I'll start going the opposite direction with my hand to then force that spiral to tighten up at the very bottom. And that is now done. All twisted up, guys. So now you can see that's a twisted cane, but basically the same thickness as the rod. So now we gather this. snap it off. There's a punching mark, but we're not worried about that. We're going to melt all of this down, and we're going to gather it into like a little round marble on top of this clear rod here. So each hot air balloon is handmade, one of a kind, one at a time. They're all unique. No two are ever identical. They may look the same. You may have two very similar balloons, right? They may look the same, but they're completely different because they're made one at a time. They're one of a kind. So you're getting an original piece of artwork every time that you purchase something from me here. No matter whether it's a very simple, affordable piece for only $5 or something that maybe you'll spend $500. It's still a unique, one-of-a-kind piece of glass. And if you want to buy a whole collection for like, let's say $500,000, I don't know, maybe I could go $50,000. That's a huge discount from $500,000 to $50,000. But it's only for 13 balloons. But it's a one-of-a-kind, limited, one-time, rare, collectible piece of glass. I'm the only artist in the world who makes these and replicates hot air balloons from balloon cards like this here. So I'll take a balloon card like this, right? And then I'll replicate it into glass. Oh, let's not drop it. And then you replicate it into glass. So I'm the only artist in the world these days, currently, that actually takes the balloon cards and photographs, and then I replicate your favorite balloon, or maybe you're a pilot, or you have crew members, or you're a crew member and you work with a balloon team and you work with a pilot, and you want to get your balloon made. Well, I'm the right guy for that job. I think I'm the only guy for that job, currently. Eventually, you know, after I'm saying this over and over and over, eventually I'll have someone who will become a very awesome competitor in this game of glass here. But right now, I own it. This is my game. There's no one else who does this, so I can sit back and just chill and know that I have no competitors out there. And this is it. I'll be sitting here retiring off of this. I'm the only glass artist in the world also who makes the, you know, the clear glass water drop pendants. I'm the only glass artist in the world who makes these, and then I gift them and I honor water protectors with them. I'm the only glass artist in the world that I know that have given away 3,806 water drops so far around the world to water protectors from all over in many different countries, including people sitting in the White House, including individuals who are famous, celebrities, musicians, actors, actresses, you know, lots of different individuals all over the world. All right, so now all that's been gathered and it's all melted down. So there's no more ribs or any little spiral anything. It's now all one piece of glass once again, all solid, all smooth, but now spiral colors in there, right? So now we need to turn this into a balloon shape. So what we do is we get our, I believe this is a 7mm rod here. We get our 7mm rod. It's clear rod. We gather the tip of this, so there's like a little sharp point. I don't know if you can see that. And you get that sharp point gathered down. So it's another gathering of the glass, right? You get it all molten. And you want to kind of get this first one a little bit warmed up, because the first one you're working with the cool rod, but then the rest are kind of preheated. So now you got that blue and white spiral. And we're going to get this molten on the tip, touch it to the top, bring it straight down in a straight line. Draw that line down just like we did with the color earlier. And now we do a clear line on top of the color, just like that. Then we go on the opposite side of it, just like we did with the color. So same steps, but now just clear glass instead of color glass. Do that same thing where you get it molten on the tip, draw it down. Now you got two pieces of clear on each side. Now we go in between those on each side. So directly in the middle of those on each side, straight down. And every time we got a little bit of a bump on that end. So I heat it up and then I just flatten it down. That's what I'm doing right there. I'm flattening it on my torch. Not every torch you can do that, so be cautious. We'll go on each side now. So now we have 4 of them. You see that? Directly across from each other. 4 lines. Now we go in between those. Real simple. But you got to keep your lines straight. And you got to keep them consistent with the same heat. You got to time it right with the same amount of heat on each time, each rod, before you're pulling it down. Because if you put too much heat, it'll be thinner than one that you don't add as much heat to. Then it'll be thicker. There's so many technical things that go into glass blowing. You don't really think about all that stuff until you're actually working it and learning it. And I guess here I'm doing a little bit of a crash course live lesson demonstration. So then we just fill in those gaps all the way around and just make sure you got them all in there. Now you got that kind of a balloon shape, but we got to really make this look like a balloon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat it up in the center where all that color is, and then I'm going to push it down on the top. It's going to kind of mash all of it down. It's going to force it to come out too and bubble out. We're going to use a paddle. So now we need a paddle. This is another tool that you need. So we've used the tweezers, we've used the reamer, and now the paddle. And there's a pad also. There's a 6 by 6 inch pad here. This is a 2 by 3 inch paddle. And the reamer is just a regular reamer, like a $15 tool there. And then the tweezers are, you know, depending on where you buy them from. If you buy them from a glass supplier, they're going to be way expensive compared to if you just find them at like a hardware store. All right, so now we get that center part nice and molten. We don't want the top too molten or hot because we don't want to mash it down and make it flat. So we keep that solid. And we just force it down into itself. So I'm basically pushing it in. So now it's more bubbled out. You see that? And the top is down just a little bit, just enough. So now we use the same rod that we just had for the ribs on the or the gores. The ribs are known as the gores on the balloon. And then you figure out, okay, which one do you want to attach this to? We're going to make a loop on top now. So you find one that's nice and straight and looks pretty prominent and just a good center point. And you're like, okay, that one looks good there. So then you just heat up where that rib is on the balloon and the tip of your glass. You fuse them together, touch them, then pull them slightly to make sure that they're all attached. And we're going to use the heat, and very carefully we're going to heat up the thicker part of this rod, and we're going to force it to go backwards from that rib. Pull it gently, and also pull it back onto the rib that's directly behind it. So we have that crisscross pattern, so that helps to find that place there, but it's still kind of hard from time to time. So then you see, it looks like that. I pulled it back from the front, but then it's all crazy on that backside. So now I need to get that backside molten, you know, kind of like we did with the mushrooms. And we're going to make sure that that part's attached. So then I force it on like that, right? Just push it into itself using the reamer, just forcing it in, just bam, like that. And we kind of melt that in so it can sink in and really fuse right there to the body of the balloon. It's going to get thicker than the rest of it, which I already know. I planned for that. So then we go in, just give it a little bit of a pull by pushing that into the hole there, and that'll pull that part up. And now we have a good starting point on making a loop, and that's pretty much done if you wanted to call it done. But I'm a perfectionist, so there's a couple little details I like to do. So I'm going to push the loop back slightly on each side to just make sure that it's centered. I'm going to add some heat to it, just thicken it up some. And we want that hole to be just small enough to where it's barely on the top of it. Now, my tweezers, I don't think they fit in there. You normally don't even grab them by that. So you can see how that is there. Now we got to do a flame cut here, and we got to really taper this down to give it that true balloon shape. If you look at a balloon, you see how it's tapered. So we really got to taper this down now. So then we get our punchy. This is our original long punchy here. And if you have any colored glass on the top of that for any reason from any of your other punchy holes, and you clean it up, you just pull a little tip off. This is clean. So we're going to go directly clear glass to clear glass on top of the loop, just like that. We make sure that's straight. And we go directly in the flame right underneath the colors. Oh, let's make sure that that loop is on there right. When I do demos and I'm explaining things, sometimes I miss just a second or two of a step, and it throws things off. Alright, so now we're in there heating up just right below the color on the rod, and at the very ends of where those clear glass poles that we put on there to make the ribs of the balloon. So now we're going to be melting those kind of down into the rod as we're doing a flame cut here. And I'm going to bring the propane down some to tighten up the flame, so now we have more oxygen compared to propane. But instead of bringing the flame up by adding more oxygen, I just brought the flame down by lessening the propane, and that creates more oxygen to propane ratio. That'll make it a super tight flame, so I can then pull it more tapered, a little bit more control of the taper here. So every little thing that I do really makes a difference on how I make these and how I make them so quick and how I make it look so quick and easy. You know, if you look at other balloons, you will see the difference on their shaping and how they really don't try to mimic the actual shape of a true hot air balloon. Now, I will admit, my baskets on my balloons are a lot bigger than they would be in real life, but I want to have them kind of stand out and make them visible. Because without them, you don't even, if they're not as big as I make them, then you don't even notice the baskets there. And only a true balloon enthusiast would know it's a balloon, and everyone else just thinks it looks like something like that, and not a balloon. So now we got to make that a balloon. That's not a balloon. We got to really get rid of that glass there. We got to taper this down. So now we're going to be pulling off glass, and all this glass here becomes scrap glass. So you can choose to reuse your scrap glass if you want or not. Every glass blower has their own, their own prerogative, their own choice on what they want to do with their scrap. So now I really pull it down. That's getting closer to the shape of a balloon. That's pretty there, pretty much there. We're just going to pull it just a little bit more. Alright, so then we get rid of that. And now, you can see that balloon shape right there. Now we add just a little dot of this, the caramel. This is the same stringer that I used for the mushrooms earlier with the two color, with the cobalt and the caramel. I think this is caramel, maybe it's butterscotch. I'm not 100% because there's no label on it. And then I'll attach a little dot of color right at the very bottom. Elongate it some, just slightly. And then I'll round it out, and bam, there's your little hot air balloon with the basket on the bottom. And that's how I make my classic style. This is the classic style. It's round, complete globe. Got the tapers, got the loop on top with the very simple spiral of two colors. This is the classic style that I make. Now, like I said, we don't take it off the loop because the loop has the punching mark. So now we have to make sure that we can grab it by the basket down here. So it's a little bit different now. And we snap it off on top of the torch there. My torch is strong. It can handle it. This is a Nortel Major with a square head. This is old school. This is like a Cadillac, Rolls Royce, or, well, I don't know. This is a pretty strong old, I don't know, you call it like a work truck, I guess. This is like an old Toyota truck. And there you have it. Now we're going to drop this one into the kiln. The mushrooms, I'm not too worried about kilning those. Alright, so we'll drop that in there. We'll try to make a couple more here before I have to get going and start making some breakfast. But I figured I would just do a quick demonstration on how I make these, show you how these are done. Also, one thing is learning about the rods. So we get these in 4-foot increments. I've already taken off a good 2 feet, so this might only be like 3 feet right here. So we're going to cut this directly in half, and now we'll have 2 more rods to work with to make whatever we need to make. So we're going to grab it. We're going to try to center it as best we can here, with as much distance on that side compared to that side. And I always do this game here where it's like, okay, let's see if I can cut this directly in half. This is always a hard thing to do because there's usually like an inch or 2 on each side longer than the other one. Now if I measured it out and I marked it with a marker, I could easily find the center. But to eyeball the center, it's a fun little game that I like to do. So anytime I'm cutting the rod, I'm always trying to eyeball it like that and see, alright, can we cut this directly in half? Here we go. You'll be a witness to this. I gotta be careful to pull it just right on each side. Don't pull it too much from one side or the other. We'll cut it. Bam, just like that. I'm going to stand them up together. And look at that difference. That is a huge difference. That's like 2 inch. See? That's always so hard to get right. But that's a fun game. Alright, so now we'll just make more balloons. that's already warm. I just pulled that off, right? So now it's nice and warm. So it'll be easy to gather this back down. We'll get that point molten. We'll get this whole tip area here ready. We'll add some color to it. We'll do another blue and white one. I'll just make 3 of them. So we'll do 2 more here. And then we'll move on to another color scheme. So we're preheating the rod to make sure that the color will stick to it, so it's, you know, it solidifies, it gets fused together. All right, so now we grab our white here. And as I'm heating up the white, I'm also keeping the clear glass in the flame to keep that nice and warm. So then it could just adhere to it real quick and easy. Just draw it down to one side. Same thing we were doing earlier with the clear glass to make the ribs. Then we get that blue one, cobalt. Add the cobalt on the other side. Keeping this clear glass nice and warm, spinning this around. Making sure that white glass is also staying warm, the glass that we just added to the clear. Because if it cools down, it can crack the glass, it can crack the clear glass. Pieces of the colored glass can pop off of it. So you want to make sure you keep it nice and warm or annealed. Alright, so we drop that down. I'm going to move this glass over here. We're going to heat this up. I added more blue than white, so it's going to be kind of a lopsided spiral. Nothing I can really do about it. We're just going to leave it on. We're going to spiral it up. But when we pull it, at the very bottom, we taper it down. We pull a lot of that blue off the very end. Alright, so we get this all molten. We got our little short punchy here again. And it doesn't matter whether it's short or long. It's just this is the one that I've been using compared to the other one that I use for more working things. Alright, and we just attach that right to the tip. Start to spin the tip around itself, then work it towards the bottom. Moving the heat towards the center of the body to get that spiral to start spinning towards there. Then work it all the way to the very end of where the color is, and slowly just letting it spiral up. If you keep the heat in one area, you're going to get that spiral way too tight in one spot compared to the rest. So, you know, you really want to be consistent and watch how those are spiraled up. Alright, so that's pretty much done there. It's all molten right now because it's glowing, so I'm letting it solidify some before I snap this off. That way this doesn't bend, because if I snap it, it might have a little bit of a bend to it, so I want to keep that solid. That way we can then melt this down, and it'll be ready for those ribs here real soon. So let's get this all nice and rounded, get all the spirals. As you can see how it's all corkscrewed up. You see that? It's got that texture. So we want to get it all smooth now. And ready for the clear ribs. So then we can make it look like a hot air balloon. And these are just the simple classic style that I make. This is nothing compared to what I do when I'm replicating balloons from the cards, and I have to actually do the detail of colors and the pattern work and making sure that the skirting on the bottom is exactly identical, and the top, the crown, and the chute of the balloon, everything's got to be all accurate when I replicate it. So these are just the simple classic ones, and as you can see, it does take some time to make them. I'm not really too concerned about anyone trying to become my competitor anytime soon in this game. But we'll see. You know, eventually maybe there'll be some other balloonists who are also glass blowers. So I met some glass blowers this year who are working on the balloon cruise, and they might be like, huh, that's a great idea, and start replicating their own balloon. And that's the thing is, you know, I can also just replicate my team's balloon, the Don Patrol balloon that I work with every year. I can replicate our balloon and just sell our balloons all day to people. You know, we'll have a little bit of a merch table going or something. I don't know if there's other balloonists that do that, and I don't know if they ever got like a special okay to do so or not. So we might have to look into that. All right, so now it's ready for the ribs. We want to let that cool because we don't want to. Sometimes we want to move this pattern and make like a raking pattern where it creates zigzags in there. So you can do that by drawing the lines while this is still molten, or making this molten as you're drawing the lines, but I'm trying to keep these just spirals. So that's a whole different pattern, a whole different game. We're just going to keep these as our classic balloons here. But if you're a glass blower and you know about the raking technique, then you would know how to do that. And then it's just being consistent with your rakes, you know, pulling them exactly the same amount, heating them up exactly the same, and then using the same amount of heat on the rod as you're pulling it. A lot of technical things going on there. So right now I'm just keeping the pattern work solid, so I'm not distorting it underneath this clear glass when I'm pulling it down. We're basically just laying this clear glass directly on top and not disturbing what's underneath. Alright, we'll see if we can get one more balloon in, and then I'll probably let y'all go so I can go check on the family. Probably start breakfast. I think I'm going to make some French toast, but with a twist. Got to make a twist and everything, right? So I came across this really amazing deal the other day. They were selling the Almond Breeze eggnog. They're these little tiny cartons that are like this skinny, you know, they're like little tiny things. They're like, you know, about this tall, and I don't know what they are, maybe a pint or two, and you know, very small amount of eggnog, but they're almond milk, so they're $4.99 each, $5 for this little tiny thing. It's like, wow, that's kind of pricey. That's like restaurant prices. And so I was like, what are you going to do? You're going to charge $8 a glass for some almond milk eggnog? There, put some rum in there, right? So anyways, I came across a big old deal. There was like, I don't know, the whole entire shelf was just full of this almond milk eggnog at $1, I think $1.60. So basically like two for $3, right? It's like you get four of them for almost, you get three of them for the price of one, basically. I think at that point, it's buy three for the price of one. And I was like, okay, so let me buy like 12 of them. I don't know how many I bought. I bought at least 10, I think. So now we got eggnog for days. So I'm going to make eggnog flavored French toast this morning. It's going to be delicious. I might actually do this live on Cooking with the Glass Man on my Facebook group and just have fun there. It's been a while since I've done any sort of cooking with the Glassman, so maybe we'll do that today. It's Friday. It's a snow day. I believe the snow stopped falling. It's a no school day, not because of the snow, but because of, like, I don't know what they said, Labor Day or something. I'm like, I thought that was in September. Like, what is today? Veterans Day? I don't know what today is. Alright, so there you go. Making it all nice and bulbous. Add the loop on top. So these things go pretty quick for me, as you can see. I sell them for $20 each. If you have a request for like 2 colors, I can do that at no extra cost. You know, like, oh, I want a black and white one, or I want red and blue, or red and black, or, you know, black and gold, black and yellow, right? I can definitely do that, no additional cost. But if you want an actual balloon, replicate it from like a photo, you know, of an actual balloon that flies, then those start at $40 and up. These classic balloons are $20 all day. And I can offer wholesale as well. But I think I'm going to be holding off on some wholesale accounts until I can land my very first account with the Albuquerque Balloon Museum gift shop. So we'll be getting these into the museum gift shop here very soon. My goal is by springtime, if not sooner, if not by the end of this year, which that would actually be even better. I just saw that they're having an event coming up, which if I can get over to it, I may try to volunteer for, and then get over there with some of these glass balloons and help out. They're doing I forget what it is, like aviation in schools or something like that. They're going to have a bunch of students there, I think from 5th grade, and they're going to be flying a bunch of paper balloons. So I don't know if this means they're going to be building full-size hot air balloons. Well, not full-size, but like the size of the RC balloons, but making them out of paper. I've seen some really cool videos of people making paper balloons and getting them to actually fly, to lift off. Now I'm sure we'll have a bunch of fire extinguishers on hand. Fire department will be on hand. I don't know if these things have to be tethered or what, but we'll find out. I'd like to be there and film it, but I don't know. We'll see. Without a vehicle, it's hard for me to get anywhere to do those kinds of things for you guys. But hopefully soon, we'll get our vehicle running. We may still get that other vehicle as well, I'm not sure. But hopefully we'll get that other vehicle running, or get our vehicle running and be back on the road again, and able to do a lot more events and going to a lot of different things to bring to you guys here at the Glassman's World. All of my loyal subscribers, bring you guys some more cool, exciting events. You know, actually, I might bring you an event tomorrow. I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to sit there all night and film, or if I want to be there and enjoy it. Maybe I can find a place where I can set my camera up and just let it be and film while enjoying it all at the same time. So I'll be going to a show tomorrow night. My friend Christian Orellana, he was in the hospital recently. We were really praying hard for him. He made it out of the hospital, and now he's got a lot of doctor bills he needs to pay, so they're doing a benefit concert, a tribute for him to help raise funds and things like that. So I'll be there. I think it's $10 at the door. And yeah, I'll do what I'll be there, and maybe I'll be allowed to set up. Actually, I didn't even think about that till now. I should probably be prepared to bring all of my stuff and set up and bend there. And then I can just take an Uber home or maybe find a ride home. And then I can give half of my profits to the cause. I can help try to raise some funds. All right, then we pull it all down again, get it nice and tapered. Sorry, I went quiet for a minute. I was thinking about things in my head there, about my friend Christian, and I was thinking about how I can maybe work it and raise some funds for him. But then I was like, how much could I really raise in one night at a show? Like, I don't know, probably not too much. If anything, those funds would be like for his whole, lifestyle funds and costs. He may need a pack of cigarettes. He may need, maybe he's not supposed to be smoking or shouldn't be smoking now, but he definitely can't be drinking anymore. So if anything, maybe the smoking will at least help him wean off the drinking for now, and whatever it is, maybe I can just help raise some funds where he can get whatever he needs, even if he needs food or whatever he needs. All right, so there you go. There's another one. Let's see if we can make one more real quick before we go check on the family. All right, I'm going to try to just make this as quick as possible. And we'll time this one out. All right, and it's good timing, starting right at 1 minute and 23. We'll probably wait till 25. I don't know if we gotta wait. Here, we can just go 1 minute and we'll just call it 1 minute and 23 seconds. Who cares? It's 19 seconds on the clock. Let's see, 1 minute 23. How long does this take? I'm sorry, not 1 minute, 1 hour 23. How long do these take? So we always gotta do the gather. Sometimes when the chips are really long like this one, I'll pull it off for timing, but it's almost already melted down, so that's all right. Hour and 23 is what we're calling it, though. Let's see how long these take me. And if you want to be technical, hour 23 and 20 seconds, right? 19 seconds. Hour 23, 20 seconds. Okay. Let's go with the white. And then the blue. I had to make sure it was the right cobalt. Melt those down, get them spiraled. All right, 1 hour 23. We're now at 25. Okay, so we're 2 minutes in. Find our punchy. Get this molten. And I don't really know how long these classics take. I think they're within 10 or 15 minutes. But let's find out. We're doing a real official timer right here. And I'm racing. I'm trying to go fast on this. We're trying to set the time, set the record on this here. $1:26. Okay, it's 3 minutes in. It's like every little step's like 1 second or 1 minute, right? Yeah, like every minute. Moving on to the next step here. Yeah, okay, then we do the rakes. Like a step a minute, huh? As if we can get all these rakes done within a minute. I don't know about that. Probably 2 minutes. That's still really hot. All right, 4 more to go. Halfway through this step. All right, got that done. 29. So what is that, 6 minutes in? All right, and we get this melted and, get this melted down and smashed in. Oh, trying to go faster than I. I'm like, come on, let's do this in the flame. Let's just get this done. There we go. Bam, get the leaf on the top. Get the loop put on there. Melt it on. No Chinese loop. Take it off. Oh, look at that. 31. We might be able to get this done in under 10 minutes. Like I said, 10 to 15 minutes on these, guys. Bring the loop down, or the heat down. Get that flame tighter. 31. We're right there. We're going to finish this right at 10 minutes, I think. You got to do this right, though. Got to make sure it's tapered just right. Don't want to mess it up and make it all like a weird elongated one. Although some balloons are elongated and they're known as racer balloons, but that's not my classic. That's not my classic style, so we're going to do this right. Like I said, we're probably going to pull some of that blue down at the end here too. Which that looks like that is happening somewhat, not too much. I was able to get a lot of that color all spiraled up into itself. Oh, I got 20 seconds. That ain't gonna happen. There we go, we got 4 seconds. It's so close. So pretty much in 10 minutes, let's call it 10 and a half. And we are done. Bam. 37 seconds right there. Drop it in down. Alright, so now we know those are about 10 minutes a piece, guys. 15 minutes when I'm not racing through them like that. That was fun. Let me show you these mushrooms real quick. So this is the last one that I made, the purple one, but it's a solid one color. So I'll show you that, how one color looks. Solid one color. Then we got the dark multi. This is the one that has all the different pigments, the different metals and things like that. And you can see how it makes it look like it's made out of 2 different colors. Like I said, I could charge 10 bucks for these, but then I feel like I'd be ripping my people off. And then this is the 2 color where I do add 2 colors to it, and you can see beautiful difference on that. Let me put the 2 side by side if I can. Hopefully I don't drop this. We'll put those 2 together, and you can see the dark multi next to the other one there. That blue one just really pops in comparison. But there you got it, you guys. Those are my my $5 and my $10 mushrooms, my $20 balloons, and I replicate them from the balloon cards for 40 bucks. So hit me up, gardenioglass@gmail, anytime. I'll talk to y'all soon. You guys have a beautiful day. Love and blessings. See you soon.